I was talking fantasy football with my friends the other day.
Alan, Bravo.
Echo.
November.
Tango. On.
Football.
Welcome back, everybody, to Bent on Fantasy Football. We are here in the dungeon. I, as always, am your host, Alan Bentley, and I've got my co-host, Josh Worley, with me today.
Hey, everybody. I'm not going to say hi, Josh, today.
So we've got a lot of stuff going on this week. As you can see, we've made some renovations to the dungeon, and we're actually going to get a huge makeover. We're moving out of the dungeon soon. More details on that in the upcoming weeks. But for now, we've got the wall in new color, as you can tell. My little fiasco last week with the spray paint kind of cost me a little bit, and we'll talk about that maybe.
Chicago
sometime.
Bears navy blue.
That's right. So Josh, being an Arizona fan, I don't know that he really likes the blue, but you know what? We're in the dungeon. It's my show, so we do what I want.
I root for the Bears when they're not playing the Cardinals. I made that clear on the air before. So
all right. So as always, we've got our beers today. The beer that I have is Why Haven't You Subscribed beer. We're still at 12.
That's a good question.
We're still at 12 subscribers. So we need you to subscribe. We need you to tell your friends about it, have them subscribe, and get us some airplay in some different places.
Absolutely.
What do you got, Josh, for your beer?
I got drop a comment or question. Of course, that is after you subscribe, like, and share.
Right.
We'd love to hear your questions. We'd love to hear your comments. Fantasy related or just Alan and Josh related. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll take them all.
I mean, really, we want the brutal honesty too. So we want you guys to tell us what you like, what you don't like. You can send us an email to at bentffb@gmail.com. Tell us what you love. Tell us what you hate. We want to make the show better. We want to make it better for you. So,
for example, I love Josh. I hate Alan. Could be your comment.
Or it could be Alan sucks. Or it could be Josh sucks. It could be.
I wondered if he was going to notice that up there.
So excellent, guys. Welcome back again, like I said, to the dungeon. So we've got a lot of things to talk about this week. There was a lot going on in the NFL.
You didn't open the beers again, did you?
No, we didn't. But you didn't let me get to it. But all right, so we're going to ask you guys to once again, as we do, pop open a cold one and enjoy the show.
Oh, I like these.
Oh, man. I tell you, that Why Haven't You Subscribed beer hits the spot, man.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. Hopefully next week I'll have a beer that says, thank you for subscribing.
Yes.
We'll see.
And hopefully we'll be able to read some of those comments and questions also.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll do that on the air. You guys put them on there. We'll get it on the air for you. All right, so kind of a week recap. We want to run back and have some talk about some takeaways that we had from last week. Some of the things we liked, some of the things we didn't like, some of the things that really sucked, and some of the things that didn't.
Yeah, I was really, really big. I think the number one story for me is Ezekiel Elliott. Mm-hmm. He really, really took back that number one job. There were a lot of questions about what kind of value Tony Pollard was going to have. Now, he's still going to hold value. They could be like a Chubb and Hunt where you could flex one almost every week. Yeah. But I think Zeke proved that he's the number one, and he's going to be the number one going forward. He was my buy low last week, and unfortunately, it's probably going to be too late after this week to buy low on him.
Yeah, he had a really good week, and we all knew he was going to rebound in some way, shape, or form before too long, and it happened sooner than I thought it would. But he had a fantastic week.
Yeah, had that game not have been so out of control in Dallas's favor in the third, fourth quarter, he would have easily had over 100.
Yeah.
Finished just 5 yards short of 100.
Yeah, it was that was quite the blowout. And that Dallas Cowboy team. One of my big takeaways too is that Dallas Cowboy team is for real. They're firing on all cylinders now. They've got the running game going. They've got the passing game going. They've got it all working for them right now. The defense is a little on the shaky side, but that's not something that they can't get past. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, the other thing that we wanted to mention too is something that's near and dear to my heart. Mr. Justin Fields had his first start in the NFL this week. Josh, what are your feelings on that?
I'm going to get into that a little bit more in what gets me bent. But that Bears offense as a whole just has no identity.
No,
You know,
the offensive line is terrible. I'm been listening to different things, and people have been saying, "Oh, Fields held the ball too long, and they didn't chip block off the line." These different things. That's all true, but at the end of the day, the offensive line failed. He held the ball too long on many occasions, but the reason is because nobody was open. So they couldn't get a receiver open in time for him to get the ball to him. The offensive line caved. He only threw from a pocket twice. Twice in the entire game he only threw from the pocket. So it was a pretty sad statement for the Bears and their offensive line. And not to mention Nagy. I mean, Nagy has really annoyed me this season. He was kind of a pain in my ass last season, but he's really annoyed me this season. I mean, if you look at his offensive schemes, they're terrible. How many times did they throw the running back out on the flank? Hardly at all. Maybe once, maybe twice at the most. That's it. I mean, there's just nothing there that shows me that Nagy could be a good head coach at any given time. He's got to stop calling plays. That's for damn sure.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Atlanta too is kind of in the same boat as the Bears right now. We don't know what role those players are going to play in that offense.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what the offensive scheme is. They did win. They did pull out a win over New York Giants, which was one of my road underdogs last week.
Yeah.
But that team, that and the Bears, there's just no identity for either one of them.
There's not. It's excuse me. It's really sad to see an NFL team that has so much talent. I mean, Matty Ice is a good quarterback. Justin Fields is a good will be a good quarterback. They've got a good foundation on both of those teams. They don't have. I don't know if it's the coaching or a combination of the coaching and talent around them, what it is. But to see NFL teams like that with the potential to have good teams and no identity whatsoever, it's hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts my soul.
I know it does. And as a Bears fan, you're going to love this. We're going to get into what gets us bent. How's that?
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to go first. And as we do every week, we get together, we watch the games. We had actually 3 TVs set up this week. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, we weren't only watching, flipping back and forth on one TV between games. And Alan's going to talk a little bit about that when he says what's going to get him bent. But what really got me bent is Matt Nagy. And the reason is the offensive plays, the offensive scheme that he's running with right now is built for Andy Dalton. I mean, granted, it took 3 weeks into the season for you to start Justin Fields, but I don't remember seeing many, if even any at all, any of those run pass options that Justin Fields needs. That's his skill set.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. Your offensive scheme, your offensive game plan is built around the quarterback's skill set.
Absolutely.
And I just didn't see that. He made no adjustments from the Andy Dalton game plan. And until he does, that Bears offense, as much as I hate to say it, because I do still root for them when they're not playing Arizona,
Sure.
They're not going to get far. They're not going to succeed.
And in my opinion, I think at this point, even though we're only 3 weeks into the season going on number 4, I still think the Bears need to just basically tear everything out. Just they need to get rid of Pace. They need to get rid of Nagy. They need to get rid of Phillips. They need to get rid of all these guys and build a team around Justin Fields. He's your quarterback of the future. You went out and you got him. You went on the limb and made the pick for him. You need to build a team around him. And Matt Nagy's not the man to do that.
I agree. I agree. So
Okay.
what gets you bent?
Well, what got me bent this week is, like Josh said, we had 3 TVs set up, and we have a channel out of South Florida that we get, and there must have been a blackout or something, which also has me bent. There's a whole blackout thing. I don't even know if the NFL is doing it or not, but there must have been
blackouts. They're bogus.
Yeah, it must have been a blackout or something because we switched it over to this. Was it the Fox or the CBS?
I think it was the CBS feed.
Yeah, the CBS station, and we found a new fantasy sport that you guys are gonna love.
Yes.
Yeah, it's called dog surfing.
And at first, when it popped up on the TV, we thought, "Oh, this is a funny commercial. There's a dog on a surfboard." And then 2-3 minutes later, we realized, Wait a minute. They just flashed some scores up on the screen. This is actual dog surfing.
Yeah. They showed the standings, and Sugar was winning. It was awesome.
Sugar was winning. I think Kylie might have been in a second, but
yeah. I don't know where Spot and Rough were,
yeah.
but
I picked Sugar to start this week. So,
did you?
Yeah,
awesome.
I did pretty well.
Yeah, well, so next week we will have our fantasy dog surfing picks for you. So start them or drown them. I don't know how that works with surfing.
But no, back to your point though. On a football Sunday, you can't have dog surfing on a local CBS affiliate.
No, it's absolutely horrible. It's a South Florida. Let's see, how many teams are in Florida? There's Miami. There's Jacksonville. There's Tampa. I mean, you've got a plethora of teams down there, and you got dog surfing on the channel. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Next to Josh,
it was awesome though.
So yeah, Ixnay on the Irving say. So, Josh, tell me, what has you bet?
Matt Nagy, I went first, remember?
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, old age getting to me again.
Brain fart.
Is that all it's got you bent?
My
lack of memory's got him bent.
His lack of memory's got me really bent.
Yeah. Anyway.
How about we talk about start and sit this week?
Okay.
We'll recap. You want to recap our last week first, and then get into this week?
Yeah. So last week you went first, and with your start 'em and sit 'em. So I'll go first this week, and what I'll do is I'll give you my startums, and then Josh will give you his startums, and then we'll go back and we'll talk about our startums from last week.
Okay.
We'll go through our sit-ums and in the same process. So
that'll work.
So this week, my startum for quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo. The reason I picked Jimmy Garoppolo as a starter, he's got a fantastic matchup against Seattle. Seattle's averaging 285 yards per game, which is 26th in the NFL. So, pretty soft pass defense there. They've got 7 sacks on the season, so that's something anyway. But the completion rate for opposing quarterbacks, is 70.7%. It's crazy how high that is. They've got no picks on the season, so the matchup really favors Garoppolo and company. And
Ayuk hopefully too.
Yeah. So who's your stardom for?
My stardom this week is going to be Sam Darnold. He has performed well to this point with a couple of cupcake matchups. I think Dallas on the road is going to be a much tougher game. Much like Alan mentioned about Matt Stafford, I've always liked Sam Darnold. Out of college at USC, he was a potential number 1 overall pick. He was with the Jets, was not in a good situation. I think with that offense, they got that technically a college offense in Carolina with Joe Brady, and it's really played to his abilities. So I think I'm actually starting him over a top 12 quarterback. I'm not going to mention the guy's name that I have in another league of mine. It was between those two guys, and I really like Sam Darnold this week. I think it's going to be a shootout. Last I saw, I think the boys in the desert, the boys and the girls in the desert have it at about 51 over under. So it's going to be a high scoring game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, with McCaffrey out too.
Right. So my running back that I'm picking for a starter this week is going to be either Josh Jacobs or Peyton Barber, whoever happens to be starting this week. I have a feeling it's probably going to be Peyton Barber. I think Josh Jacobs may miss another week. I don't have any solid proof to say yes that he will or that he won't, but I think it's going to be Peyton Barber. If he does, they're playing the Chargers. The Chargers are giving up 510 rushing yards on the year. They've got the average per carry is 5.8 yards for opposing running backs, which is the worst in the NFL, clearly. If you look at the potential for the Raiders, the Chargers defense is what I was going to talk about. They actually have given up big yardage to CEH. They gave up big yardage to Tony Pollard. They've given up. So in week 2, they gave up 109 yards to Pollard and 71 yards to Elliott. So you're talking 180 yards out of one game, and they gave up 100 yards to CEH. I think the matchup there is huge. I think either Jacobs or Barber is going to have a fantastic day. Who's your running back, Josh?
I don't necessarily agree with that. Alan knows I don't really like any of those Las Vegas running backs. But that being said, Derek Carr's got to fall back down to earth. He's not going to throw for 7,000 yards, so they got to get that running game involved a little more.
Sure.
So I can see where you're coming from, even though I don't necessarily like that situation. I like Zach Moss. I've been high on Zach Moss. I tried to get him in most of my leagues. I have him in about half of my leagues. Now, Devin Singletary is still out touching Zach Moss. But I think that's going to be Zach Moss's starting job by the end of this year. I mean, he did vulture the 2 touchdowns last week. The game script this week is going to be so positively in favor of Buffalo. They're not going to need to throw. They're going to lean heavily on that run. Last I checked, I think it's a 16-point line right now, which is
big.
Which is amazing for NFL.
Yeah.
That could be a season high for any team.
Mm-hmm.
But that just shows how bad the Houston defense is. So I think they're going to run some more. And I think Zach Moss is going to take a lot of that. I expect a really big game out of Zach Moss.
Okay. All right. So for wide receiver, for my stardom, I have Christian Kirk and Chase Edmonds. So Arizona in general. The only thing that I see that really this game's going to be a shootout. This game's going to be a huge shootout playing the Rams. We've got a fantastic offense on one side, a fantastic offense on the other side. Jalen Ramsey's going to be a huge part of that, but he's not going to be covering Christian Kirk. He's not going to be covering Chase Edmonds. So these guys are going to get be the beneficiaries of that coverage. So the Rams are 25th in receiving yards per game. So I think Arizona is actually going to come out ahead on the Rams this
I do
week.
too, and we'll get in a little further into that when we talk about something later on today.
Yeah.
That's a 55-point over/under total right now. I mean, that's going to be huge. We didn't, just so you guys know, we didn't talk about our start and sit before just now. So I didn't know who he had, and he doesn't know who I have,
Right.
unless we look at each other's paper. I didn't know you had 2 Arizona Cardinal guys because I got Rondale Moore for my receiver.
Okay.
And the reason is, like you just mentioned, Jalen Ramsey is going to be all over Hopkins.
Yeah.
So the guy I see really, really benefiting from that, besides Christian Kirk, is going to be Rondale Moore in that passing game. I am starting Edmonds in my Yahoo League this week. You know, I do expect big things out of him as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, that game could get into the 80s, you know.
It could be.
It could.
Total score, yeah, it could be. So who do you got for whiteout?
I just said Rondale Moore.
Oh, that's the only one? I thought you had another
No,
one.
just Rondale Moore.
All right. See, we obviously don't talk about this beforehand. I thought he had another one besides that. So
Absolutely.
all right. So then for tight ends, I've got George Kittle as the go-to guy this week. He's due. Long story short, San Francisco's got a good offense, a solid offense, and he's going to be a part of it. He's been pretty quiet this year. He's pretty quiet at the end of last year, but he's due. He's going to come through. He's going to be a big one this week.
Don't you mean George Brittle?
Yeah,
Can hardly stay healthy, man.
Yeah. When he's healthy, he's good. When he's
Yes.
not, he's brittle. He's George Brittle.
I'm going to go with that same game. I like Gerald Everett. I really do. That game has another high point total. I think it's 52 and a half, kind of wavering right now. So expect big things from both offenses.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of fantasy points out there this week.
There is. And we saw Tyler Lockett kind of come back down to earth last week, which we expected.
Yep.
I expect maybe 1 or 2 more weeks like that. DK Metcalf will get his. But I think Gerald Everett's going to pick up a lot of that, the second receiver goal.
Yeah.
Roll.
It's goal, roll, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
All right, so going back to last week, and I know I'm switching gears on you here a little bit, but going back to last week, my stardom for quarterback was Ben Roethlisberger. Now, we looked at the point totals for each of these players. What we based it on was 4 points for a quarterback touchdown.
Passing touchdown.
Yeah, passing we're running, right?
No, rushing is still 6.
Okay, all right, okay. So we have that, and then what is 1 point for every 25?
-2 per interception, and then 1 point for every
25 yards.
25 yards.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I picked Ben Roethlisberger as a starter. Now we're going to classify these either as right, wrong, or serviceable. Serviceable being someplace in the middle, which you may or may not be able to start him that week, depending on if you have somebody better. Ben Roethlisberger, on that point scale, he wound up with 17 points. I would call that serviceable, barely, but serviceable. Big Ben had a good yardage day, but not a good interception day. So, who was your quarterback?
I picked two, actually. I picked Taylor Heineke and Daniel Jones.
Okay.
Heineke scored 20 points. It really helped with that rushing touchdown he had. Daniel Jones put up 15.
Mm-hmm.
I would say serviceable for Heineke. I would definitely say wrong for Jones. I thought with that Atlanta defense that he would easily throw for 300 yards, get up in the 25 to 27 point range. So I'd say serviceable for Heineke.
Sure.
I was definitely wrong on Jones.
Yeah, well, we can't all be right.
I know.
All right, and that's going to be obvious with my next pick. I had Jonathan Taylor as a starting running back. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor is going to be a thorn in my side this entire year. I can see this already. He scored. So basically, the way we did this was 1 point for every 25 yards.
No, 10 yards.
Or I'm sorry, every 10 yards, and then 1 point per reception. So it's a full PPR, and then fumbles were -2. So
and then 6 for touchdown, obviously.
And 6 for touchdown. So Taylor scored 8 points on that grading scale. Yeah, he sucked. So that's definitely wrong.
That's definitely wrong.
Who was your next one?
Mine was kind of a chalky pick. It was Barkley. I usually don't like to go real chalky picks, but I picked Saquon. I thought being fully healthy, he showed flashes in the previous week, especially with that big long run. He put up 21 points. So I would say I was right on that. You know, with the 20 plus points. I mean, not quite as much as I would have liked to get out of him. Maybe 25 to like I said, 25 to 27.
Sure.
But I'd say that's a good pick.
No, absolutely. And then for my wide receiver last week, I picked Adam Thielen as your starter. And he wound up with 17 points. So we're going to call that one right. And mark that down right as always. Okay. And
all right. My receiver was Marquise Hollywood Brown, who I'm really big on this year. I definitely got it wrong. He scored 8 points. However, we watched that game. He had 3 big drops, including one at the end of the first half. That would have been a 50-yard touchdown catch.
Yeah.
So you're talking that would have bumped him up into the 20, right around the 25 range. So while I was definitely wrong, I think Marquise kind of assisted me in that failed pick there.
But you know, in all fairness, that long touchdown, would have been touchdown pass, was it hit him in a bad spot. It hit him right in his hands.
I know, right in the middle of his hands.
It's hard to catch the ball when it hits you right in the hands.
I know. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And that's what you said exactly when we watched it live.
It was horrible. All right, so moving on to tight end. I had Noah Fant. So on this point scale that we have, there's no curve. So I'm just going to be honest. That was a big fail. He had 3 points on the day.
In a full point PPR, keep in mind.
Yeah. So all I can say is
Loser.
In other words, he was wrong, is what he was trying to say. So,
Yep. So
now I don't have to admit this, but I'm going to be the bigger man here and admit this. Last week, my tight end pick got cut off by the video, so you guys didn't get to see who I picked. Now, this guy we haven't been high on all year. In fact, we devoted our very first entire show this year to this guy, how he would not succeed this year, and that was Kyle Pitts.
Right.
I thought, you know what? Coming into week 3, they're playing against a weak Giants defense. He's going to have a big week. 5.5 points in a full point PPR. So that's just horrible. So I definitely got it wrong.
It was rough.
But it didn't surprise me. I wanted him to prove me wrong, but it didn't surprise me because we both think that, this is the year that he's not going to succeed.
Yep. So that's it for last week in our Stardom and Sit 'em. Let's go on to our Sit 'em for this week.
Well, we went through all the starts. Let's do the sits.
Yep.
Okay.
So for my sit-ems why don't you start out, Josh?
Okay. Now, my sit-ems are going to be highly, highly unpopular, and I know this first one, you're going to probably look at me like I have two heads when I say this. But my sit-em, now keep in mind this is only if you have another option, say you're in a 2-quarterback league, or you have a backup that could be a serviceable backup. I'm not talking about a third or fourth string. If you have another option, I'd sit Josh Allen. And I know that's very, very unpopular, especially after he put up 42-something points last week. But like I mentioned earlier, the reason why I love Zach Moss is that game script is going to be positive as far as advantages toward Buffalo goes. Now, that equals a negative fantasy game script, okay? Especially if you're going to be up big. I think they're going to be up big. The game's going to be over early, and they're going to, like I said, they're going to run some more. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets pulled halfway through the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it could happen.
And they're not gonna, in my opinion, they're not gonna have to run the ball. They're not gonna risk Josh Allen running and getting hurt when they have Devin Singletary and Zach Moss.
So you're picking to sit him based on the fact that he might have to sit. Is what you're saying?
Okay, Alan.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. No, that's fine. I mean, you can pick him for a lot of to sit. For
I
a lot of different
don't
reasons.
think he's going to have to throw the ball a lot, and I don't think they're going to have to rely on his legs.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to go with my sit this week is going to be the guy that I picked to start last week is going to be Ben Roethlisberger. I'm really high on Ben Roethlisberger. I like the guy. I'm not,
I like Beth Roethlisberger too, like you were just going to say. Yeah.
So Beth Roethlisberger. But Big Ben, I like him. I'm not a huge fan of his as far as fantasy goes. But I like the guy. He's tough. He's durable. He's got everything. This week is going to be a tough week for him. He's going to be seeing nothing but sky a lot because he's going to be on his back. So I'm going to go with Ben Roethlisberger as my sit-em.
I like that. And just as after we got done saying Gerald Everett is my start this week, it looks like his status was changed from healthy to COVID-19, so he won't be playing this week, most likely. So that's going to be a big wrong already. Yeah. So, all right, you're not going to like this one either. He had a big week again last week. This is my running back. I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift.
Ooh.
And the reason for DeAndre Swift is the Bears' defense. Well, we talked about the Bears' identity. Their offense just can't seem to get things rolling, but their defense is really starting to come together, really starting to make a name for themselves. I don't see DeAndre Swift having a big week this week. I don't think he's going to be able to run against that interior line. And I don't think Goff's going to have the time to give him a lot of these little drop back, those little dump out passes.
It's funny that you say that because, like Josh said earlier, we don't talk about this beforehand, but DeAndre Swift was my very first thought that came into my head when we talked about start him and sit him. The reason I didn't do that is because we picked him, or I picked him, or one of us picked him to sit a couple weeks ago.
You did the first week, and then I was also going to, but since you did, and
he blew it up. So him against the Bears.
I love it.
Yes, I do love it.
Oh my God!
All right, and then my and then my sit-em is actually DeAndre Swift, but since you picked him, I'm going to go with somebody else.
Okay.
Let's go to the other side of the ball in that same game, and let's go with David Montgomery. The reason is, obviously, like we talked about, the Bears' offense does not have any identity. They don't have anything that's gonna make them stand out. It's rough for me to say that because I like Montgomery. As a player, and I think he's going to develop into a good running back. But this season is just not his season. It's not going to happen this year. This is going to be a learning year for him, and he's going to have to kind of live with that, I guess. So
yeah, and I'm high on Montgomery, but only for a flex this year. I mean, he's going to be a boomer bust, kind of like we talked about certain players.
Yeah.
And until that offense can really get that game plan centered around Justin Fields' skill set.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the booms are going to be few and far in between, or the booms are going to be few and far in between.
Absolutely. So my receiver is going to come out of that same game. That's going to be Allen Robinson. And as much as it pains me to say this, we talked about him being quarterback proof earlier on in the season in one of our shows.
Yeah.
He's been in bad positions in Jacksonville. I mean, with bad quarterbacks in Jacksonville and Chicago, and he succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
But the way things are going right now, he hasn't succeeded. And there's a reason for that, and that's Matt Nagy. That's the play calling, and until they can, get that kind of scripted out correctly.
Think Nagy's a problem, really?
I do.
Tell me how you really feel.
No, really?
You're an idiot. But no, I don't see him succeeding until they can get that offense under control.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. All right, so moving on to wide receivers. So wide receivers, I had a real hard time with this one because there's going to be a lot of points. Like I said before, there's going to be a lot of fantasy points going up on the board this week, which means there's going to be a lot of receivers getting a lot of points. So what I'm going to actually pick on this one is I'm going to pick Michael Pittman for the sit-em. I expected Pittman to have a good week last week. He didn't. So I'm gonna say sit him this week because it looks to me like the Colts need some time to figure things out, to gel together as a team, to figure out how to get Pittman the ball, to figure out who their number one receiver is if it is Pittman. So if you've got Pittman on your roster this week, I say sit him.
So in case anybody who's been watching our past shows, that's the second time Alan has picked Michael Pittman as a sit. What happened the first time you picked him as a sit?
He blew up. You might want to start him this week.
So start Michael Pittman this week, guys. That's what we're trying to tell you. And then my last sit here, and this guy's going back into my doghouse after week 3. It's Kyle Pitts again. I mean, we've talked about him a lot this year, and for good reason. People are starting him every single week as a top 5 tight end. Yeah. He hasn't dropped in the expert rankings. He hasn't dropped in the projections. I just don't understand it, Yeah. And until that offense can get, find out what player is going to play what role in that offense, I just don't see him having big weeks. He had 3 targets last week,
Yeah. My tight end that I think we should probably be sitting this week is Robert Tanyan.
Okay.
The only reason I say that is because he's been pretty consistently mediocre. I think he's going to fall off this week. I think it's going to be a tough week for him. The Green Bay offense is showing some real signs of improvement over obviously over week 1, but week over week they're showing some good improvements. I just don't think he's going to be a part of it this week.
I don't really either. Season wide, I think he can get his groove back, but. Yeah. Not this week.
So who was your start for, or I'm sorry, your sit-em for last week?
Last week was Justin Fields, and same scoring like we just talked about. Like Alan and I have talked about, we've preached, from the rooftops, from the mountaintop. We love Justin Fields this year. Yeah. I think it's probably going to take a little longer, and I think we can both see that now for a little longer than we both thought. But he had 4 points. He didn't even crack 75 passing yards. And
he had barely 4 points. I think it was a little bit less than 4 points.
Just actually, under 4 points. So
yeah, it was not good. So you were right on that one. So you got that one right. Now it's going to get ugly, folks. This is going to get real ugly here because the guys that I told you to sit last week, they hate me. So they did really well for you. Baker Mayfield was the quarterback. Scored 22 points, which is not phenomenal, but I would say that it's definitely above serviceable, but I was wrong on that one.
You were wrong.
I admit that I was wrong on that one. So,
wait, you were what?
I was wrong. Go ahead.
Okay, hang on.
Cue up the sound effects. I was wrong. I said I was wrong. Thank you very much.
Oh, I love it. Now, my running back that I sat was CEH. Mm-hmm. He did score 18 points. It was definitely wrong. A big part of that was hitting that 100-yard to get that 5-point bonus. He didn't score a touchdown yet, and I'm still not high on him going forward this year, and I think a lot of people shouldn't be, especially where he was drafted. But I got it wrong. He didn't end up scoring 18 points.
Yeah, and that's a hard one for me because I have him on one of my teams. But yeah, you were wrong this week on it. Then my running back that I said sit.
Hang on, I got to get another sound effect cued for this.
Yeah, go ahead, help yourself because you might want to use that one right there. So mine was Antonio Gibson, and I was definitely wrong on that one. I was definitely wrong on that one.
Oh, I'm still trying to get these.
I was definitely wrong on that one.
Trying to.
Oh, really?
Trying to figure out these sound effects, guys. So.
It's still new to us, so we're
old
we're
people
playing
and
with
technology don't mix.
Yeah,
so.
it definitely doesn't. So, he scored 17 points based on our scoring model. So yeah, it was definitely a wrong option.
To your defense, though, yes, you did get it wrong. But the one play he got over 13 points with that 73-yard reception.
I was gonna say it was padded by the 73-yard touchdown that he had. If you look at his rushing yards, though, he was like 30 some rushing yards. So it wasn't a huge thing, but that one touchdown did pad it. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I was wrong.
And my receiver was Tyler Lockett. You know, he's been there a couple weeks, and I'm surprised I didn't have him there this week. If it wasn't for that Bears offense, I might have. He had 7 points, so I would say that was right. The big takeaway I really got from that game is he was fourth in targets, I believe, on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Only had 4 targets, out of those 7 points. So
that's crazy.
yeah, so we're definitely going to see some regression with Tyler Lockett. So I would say right on that one. So where's the golf clap for me, Alan?
Oh, okay. So did you say that you were right or wrong, Josh?
I was right.
You were right?
I was right.
Oh, well, in that case, we're going to have a sound effect here in just a second. There you go. Fantastic. Good job, Josh. Good job. Yes. Way to go.
We're running this on AOL 1994, so...
Windows .1.
Yes.
My wide receivers last week, I said sit Henry Ruggs. I said sit LaBiscuit Chenault, and I was half right. So Henry Ruggs wound up with 12 points based on our scoring model. And Chenault ended up with 8 points based on our scoring model. So I would say that Ruggs would have been a serviceable, if not close to a good start. Chenault, 8 points, maybe serviceable, but I'd rather sit him and put somebody in.
I would agree with you. I would say serviceable and wrong on those.
Yeah.
But
okay. And then who is yours?
Well, mine was, we already talked about mine, Lockett. My tight end was Gesicki, and oh boy, did he screw me this week. He had 12 targets, second on the team, caught 10 of those for, I think, 86 yards. So we're talking, oh my God, get it ready. 18 points. So yes, I was wrong on Gesicki. The reason that surprised me so much is because...
That's it, I'm through.
All right, I'm through. Because that Las Vegas defense had only given up 60 yards total to tight ends up to that point. So
yeah, no, it was based on the numbers, based on everything. It was a good call. It just didn't work out. As you know, we know that in fantasy that's how it works sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So then tight ends. Now finally, I have a good one here. So I said sit T.J. Hawkinson. He wound up with 3 points in a full point PPR league. Awesome.
Yeah, you did, and I lost, Alan, because of T.J. Hawkinson in our league.
Oh, well, I'm really sorry to hear that. But, it
Well, you know what? You got it, so play the golf clap.
That's it, I'm through.
All right, I like it.
All right.
All right, so there were our start and sit for the last 2 weeks, and we'll recap them every week as well, just so you can see how good or bad or how right or wrong or...
Right.
serviceable we are.
Yeah, and you can also check on the website too. It's bentonfootball.godaddysite.com. I post them up there every week, show you all of our start 'em and sit 'em. Also, there's a link to the website on our Facebook page, which is Bent on Fantasy Football on Facebook. So check it out, join the group. I put a link up there every week to active and inactives also, so to help you out with your last minute decisions on, so you know who's starting and who's going to be out for the week. Just to help you out.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I guess we are down to our bet predictions.
Well, I want to do a buy low, sell high real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This week,
go ahead.
I did talk about buy low. Zeke Elliott last week, and then what did he do? He scored 25 points. Right. So I think it's too late to buy low on him right now. But the other guy that I really like a buy low on, and he may be out for a couple weeks, is A.J. Brown. I mean, he's still the number one in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Derrick Henry had another 28 rushes this past week, which is just ungodly. He's on pace for, 520 carries, something like that?
Ridiculous.
And it's just disgusting. So we've been saying it all along. He's not gonna withstand the whole season. We don't feel that longevity is gonna be there. The durability is gonna be there. So A.J. Brown his role is only gonna grow in that offense.
Yep.
If he's out right now, you could get him for next to nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, especially he had a couple poor performances. He's still a top 10 receiver in my opinion.
Yeah, he's still A.J. Brown. No matter how you slice it and dice it. I mean, look at Zeke. He had a couple bad weeks and he came back. It's going to be the same thing with Brown. When he gets healthy and he gets back in the lineup, he's going to be a tough receiver to cover.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short.
I actually offered a guy in my league, and this is going to go into my sell high, Derek Carr. And I offered a guy, Lamar Jackson, and Chase Edmonds, and Zach Moss for Derek Carr and Christian McCaffrey. Now, Christian McCaffrey is out about 3 weeks. He immediately shut it down, and I thought, wait a minute, is there something I'm missing here? I think people are overvaluing Carr right now. Yes, he's had 3 close to 400-yard games. That's not going to keep up. There's no way in hell he's going to throw for 7,000 yards. Like we talked about earlier, they're going to have to start, bringing that run game into it more.
So you're saying that the run game could prosper after you just said a little while ago.
Not this week. I don't think this week it will, but it could.
Fair
but
enough.
We'll have to see it happen.
I'll give you that one. That's fine.
But I think Derek Carr is going to come down to earth, and I don't know why he's being so overvalued. Well, I do because of those yardage, but it's not going to keep up.
Yeah, I would agree with you. If you have an opportunity, and he's probably going to plateau at some point, but if you have an opportunity to get some real talent for him, set that trade up, make that trade, do what you need to do, and get him off your roster and get some more talent in there. It's going to be a very high peak and then a very low valley when he goes down.
Absolutely. And I would say, just a recommendation as an example, I would say look to get some guy in the range of maybe like a Tannehill, something like that, packaged together with another running back. You could get a low-end RB1, high-end RB2. Or
if you're weak on wide receiver, look at wide receiver too, obviously. I mean, you can probably get even a couple wide receivers for Carr. If you've got a good backup, a good.
Well, most likely, if they have Carr as their starter right now, they have a second quarterback. Because most people they weren't going to draft Carr as their first quarterback,
right?
Which is good news for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. All right. So, do we want to go to our bet predictions then?
I think so. Yes.
Okay. I guess we'll go to our bet predictions.
You went first last week, didn't you?
I did.
Okay. Now I'm going to go first this week. I'm going to stick with another weekly. Now, all 3 of my road underdogs, I said Atlanta would win at the New York Giants. I said New Orleans would win at New England. And Cincinnati would win at Pittsburgh. And they just blew them out, which I didn't think they would win in that. But I went 3 for 3 on my road underdogs. So I'm going to go back to 2 road underdogs this week that I really, really like. Arizona at the LA Rams. Now, I think both teams, like we talked about, that's going to be a high-scoring game. Could be up in the 80s. But I'm relying more on Kyler Murray's skill set than Matthew Stafford's skill set. Now, Stafford, yes, has had, he leads the league currently, I think, among active players, unless I'm wrong, with fourth quarter comebacks and,
probably does.
And late drive comebacks.
Probably does. I can't verify or deny that, but I wouldn't doubt it for sure.
But I really think Kyler's legs are going to play a difference in this game. Arizona has that pass rush that the Rams haven't seen yet this year. Okay, and they really have those lockdown corners. I think it's going to be close, but I really like Arizona to pull that out. The second one is Indianapolis on the road at Miami. Now they're favored by, I think, 3 or 4 right now. Miami is. I don't like Jacoby Brissett. I really don't like Why are you smiling at me?
Just because you just stole both of the ones I was going to use, but that's fine. Go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Indianapolis, yes, they haven't won a game this year. I think this is going to be their first win on the road. I'm not high on that passing game with Jacoby Brissett. Wentz is getting closer back to full health. I like Pittman in this matchup. I know you said sit him. If he says sit him, he's going to get 6 touchdowns, most likely. So... but I think Indianapolis is going to cover that. Not only cover, but I think they're going to win straight up. So Arizona and Indianapolis.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
How about you?
And I was actually going to use the Rams game as my, but I'm not going to do that now. I gotta go off script here and figure out something else.
Were you going to pick Arizona to win too?
I was. No, I was gonna. Yeah, actually, no. I'm sorry. I was gonna pick the Rams to win. But and I could go against you and do that, but I'm not. So what do you know right off the top of your head what the biggest spread is in the NFL this week?
Yeah, it's Buffalo and Houston. I think it's between 16 and a half right now.
Okay. All right. I'm going to say that Houston covers that spread or wins that game.
Win straight up?
No, not win straight up.
Oh my God.
Wins,
okay.
I'm sorry. Let's back up.
They're going to cover the spread.
They're going to cover the spread. Yes.
Okay.
So,
see, I don't think so. That's why I don't like Josh Allen this week.
It's a hard one. I got to go with that because you killed me on the Rams game, so I can't use that one. So yeah, I was all set. I was ready. I had this big thing I was going to talk about, and Josh just killed me. So I guess we'll go with what I go with. So my prediction: Houston to cover the spread this week. All right.
Okay. We got him down, so we'll see. I think we'll know early on Sunday because we get together every Sunday, watch the games. Yep. We'll know because that's a noon game, so we'll know if you're right away.
Yep. So, again, I want to touch base on a couple things this week before we wrap it up. I do want to mention our website again. It's still a work in progress, but you're going to see some major changes on it coming up in the next week or so. Again, it's bentonfootball.godaddysiteswithan.com. So go on, check it out. We will provide a link down in the comments for it, so you can go check it out. Also, our group page on Facebook is Bent on Fantasy Football on the Facebook, on the Facebook, not just on Facebook, on the Facebook.
On the Facebook, so Grandpa.
I think I've been smoking the marijuana. But also,
that's for your cataracts, though, right?
Yeah, and my rinkin.
Yes.
Also, our email. bentffb@gmail.com. We want to hear from you guys. Like I said before, we want to make the show better. If it means getting rid of Josh, I'll do it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'll do it for you guys. I'll do that. Sorry, Josh.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
But all right, so I guess we're pretty much done for this week.
Yes, and we are gonna. Do you want to talk about the number? Or?
Yeah, we can do that. Sure.
Okay.
So we do have a studio number. We just got it this week. We are going to set that up. Obviously, we're trying to make changes every week to the show to make it better. We do have a studio number. We're not going to give you the number yet, but we do want to have call-ins. So what I was thinking is, since we do record this on Wednesday and then post it up on Wednesday night, what I'd like to do is have you guys email us at bentffb@gmail.com. Let us know you want to be a guest on the show. We'll make arrangements so that when we are recording, we can set up a call with you. We will talk about whatever subject you want to. If you want to talk about how great I am, that's totally fine. We can do that for hours on end. I have no problem with that. If you want to talk about how bad Josh is, I'm totally okay with that too. Not a problem.
Oh, and we actually did have a caller set up for today, but for some reason, his wife, they just got married, thought that their leaving for their honeymoon this afternoon was more important.
Yeah, so I don't understand
what's
that.
up with that?
Women just don't understand fantasy football.
They don't.
No. Well, anyway, guys.
Sorry, John.
Yeah. All right. So, anyway, I guess that's all we really have for right now. So, if you like the show, fantastic. Go on to our at the YouTube down below. Go ahead and like and subscribe and share. And on Facebook, when you get the link, share that. Until next week, I guess even if you liked it or you didn't like it, I guess you just need to get bent
On fantasy football.
Peace out.
Peace.